Pre-qualifying is underway here at Imola. We are in Italy for the opening round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Endurance Cup. And we've had the free practice session. Now pre-qualifying takes to the circuit, and it is actually on a rather more overcast circuit, probably a chillier track than we've had earlier on in the day. It is not a warm day here in Italy. We've had a little bit of rain just during the previous race for the GT2 cars. David Addison and John Watson trackside, and all wrapped up, Watty. It's not a warm day, this.
It is perishing out there. There's a wind blowing down the pit straight, and we'll blow a dog off a chain, as I would frequently say, but it's cold. But on track, things are beginning to warm up. Just noticing, you just got the timing and scoring from that free practice session earlier. You know, this is meant to be a competitive championship. We're meant to have a balance of performance that equals everything up.
I've heard that.
You know, I don't think it's that great, because we've only got half the field of 52 cars covered by 1 second.
Is that all?
That's not good enough. That's unbelievable. That 27 cars under 1 second.
And when you think about the fact that it's a long lap, and also the fact that you've got cars that are front engine, mid engine, you've got turbos, you've got normally aspirated, it does prove how the BOP works, and that it's done absolutely right. So everybody pouring out onto the circuit now. Pre-qualifying doesn't affect the grid unless you don't have a qualifying session, in which case you do have some times to rely on. But again, this is going to be an opportunity to have a look at cars. You're riding at the moment on board number 63 Lamborghini with Jack Aitken behind the wheel. And it's good to have, as we said this morning, Jack back racing after his sizable accident at Spa last year. And it's good also that he's come back to the same team and to the same championship. So there's unfinished business for him.
Yes, indeed. It was a very, very unpleasant accident he had at Spa. And, well, it was one of those accidents we never got to see, because it was that bad. It was deemed to be unsuitable for a television audience. But Jack is back, and hopefully he'll have a year to remember with the Emile Frey Racing Emile Frey Racing Lamborghini team.
Gets past the Garage 59 Mclaren there. It's also going to take some saying, isn't it? Or some remembering, because we've been used to Garage 59 Aston Martins for the last few years. Jack Aitken here on the money straight away, isn't he? Goes straight out. He's doing very good personal best and an absolute best in the sectors. He's done the fastest time. I know it's early, but there's no sort of playing yourself in. Straight away, he went top on a 1:44.099, although Michel Gatting now, the Iron Dames Ferrari, goes quickest, 1:43.490.
I mean, basically, if you're a pro driver, that's what comes with the package. You're generally on it pretty much. Now, it depends if he's on a set of tyres that was used in that session earlier in the morning. I doubt he's on a brand new set of tyres. It is at that point on the first flying lap, a brand new set of tyres would give you an advantage. But because ambient track temperatures are low, and although Pirelli have brought this new tyre, which is principally about a compound change, by the way, they're supplying tyres this weekend for 150 cars.
Good grief.
And that's over 4 categories. I mean, where does it stop? It's unbelievable, the commitment that Pirelli have put into this championship, or these championships.
Yeah. Because there's GT3, GT4, GT2 and Lamborghini Super Trofeo all running on Pirelli rubber this weekend. And of course, they also supply to national championships like the British Championship, for example. 111, good to go. So that's the McLaren from the JP Motorsports stable that's driven by Christian Klein, Vincent Abril and Dennis Lynn.
It's got to be a strong lineup.
It has.
I mean, you look at that car, it looks like something you might see during burnout down Park Lane in London. But actually, it's not about looks, it's about performance.
Well, it's got the right people for the job, hasn't it? Dennis Lynn, the reigning British GT champion, who spent some of the free practice session sitting in the warmth, watching it all on TV, listening to you. Enjoying himself, he said. 95, then, is the Aston Martin from Beechdean stable that is the Pro car. In other words, Maxime Martin, Marco Sorensen and Nicky Tim from the Pro Cup. Calvin van der Linde goes quickest, 1:41.404.
Who's gone third quickest? Quick. Who's gone third quickest?
Valentino Rossi goes third for Audi, number 46. Valle goes third, 1:42.348. His last competitive appearance at Imola was in 1999 in a 250cc World Championship motorbike race, and he was second that day, although he had won here the year before in 250 and the year before that on a 125 machine.
And of course, all on two-stroke machines.
Yes.
Don't ask what a two-stroke machine is. It's something that might make its return into the motor industry, because apparently they are extremely efficient.
There you go. Well, right now, Valentino Rossi wants to be taken seriously as a GT racer, not just remembered for his motorbike racing exploits. He has done some car racing. We've seen him in the earlier iteration of this, the Block Pan Endurance Series. We've seen him in the Gulf 12 Hours. He's also done a bit of rallying, but this is a major commitment to a season. The others was if and when time allowed, but this is a proper assault. This is the future.
Yes, it is. I mean, the motorcycling era for Valentino is over, and I think very wisely too, because the one thing, when Valentino Rossi steps out of his Audi, I can guarantee you it's not going to fall down. When he got off his motorcycle, whatever it was, 250, 500s, MotoGP, first thing it did was it fell over. That's the beauty of car racing.
And should you get it wrong, there's a lot more around you to protect you. But he has been an absolute star for motorbike racing. A sportsman like perhaps no other in recent times, somebody that's been able to take the sport onto front pages, somebody that's almost been bigger than the sport. You say Valentino Rossi, you know exactly what's required. You don't instantly think of anybody else when you say MotoGP.
You think of MotoGP, you don't even say his name, you just say his numbers, racing number 46. That's how he is known. He is a brand, more than just a sportsman. He's just there's that a wince on his face. He's coming to a stop at his, he has just come to a stop at the WRT garage. So he'd done a good run, initial run, 142.3. Kelvin van der Linde still topping the times, about roughly just a fraction of a second slower. Nicky Thiem now has taken that on and into the 1 minute 40s. So the Aston Martin again with that particular car, 95 car, showing really, really strong pace.
Now this is encouraging. Ollie Milroy in the Inception Racing McLaren on track, because Brendan Reid was the only driver that got into it this morning, and it didn't do many laps. I think he did about 6, including the in-laps, so 4 flyers during the course of the session. And we never got to the bottom of why, but clearly it's going much, much better now.
I mean, we never actually got a reason as to what the problem with the car was, but now it looks totally normal, as performing as the McLaren would be expected to do. So Ollie Milroy behind the wheel, personal best. Well, every lap is going to be a personal best because the car did so little running in that session this morning. So everything they do. Now, we noticed in our 1.5 hour session, the marker indicating track limits entering into Variante Alta was being knocked down with regularity. It's still standing. We're 5 minutes in, still 10 minutes in, and still standing.
Tempting fate now, but you're right. So have they learnt? I'm not aware that riot acts have been read to drivers in the interval between sessions, but for the moment at least they're being a bit more respectful of it. So Ollie Milroy comes across the line, 13th fastest now in number 7 McLaren. Inception Racing that's kind of grown out of the Optimum team. Nicky Thiem is fastest in the Aston Martin number 95, 1 minute 40.573. Nicholas Nielsen, reigning endurance champion, has just gone up to 3rd, 141.411. And number 46 Audi goes back on track, still shown as having Valentino Rossi behind the wheel.
The way, for me, the way that you pick up speed, especially at this phase in Rossi's career, is do runs, maybe 3-time lap runs, 4-time lap runs, come in, just think about it, talk to the team. If there's something you feel uncomfortable with or you want to change, do it. But don't go out and grind lap upon lap upon lap. And you do that once you gain the experience and understanding of the equipment that you're going to be driving. So don't beat yourself up, basically. That's the story, or that's the advice I would give at this phase of his motor racing career.
Number 3 Mercedes had a spin this morning. There it is, the purple Mercedes coming over the brow, and it's Jeff Kingsley behind the wheel of it, American driver. So now, again, it's a 90-minute session, this. Chance to identify some of the cars, the teams, the drivers. On board 93, the Sky Tempesta Mercedes, switching from Ferrari to Mercedes for this year.
He's backed off, looking for track space in the process, allowing 2 other cars to go through, 3 other cars to go through. And that's always going to be an issue in this Imola racetrack. It's a lovely, lovely racetrack. 4.9 kilometers in length, 3 miles, 23 corners. It's old school. I think every driver in the paddock is really happy about being back here. And Eddie Cheever taking little bits of the racetrack that are supposedly not actually meant to be used, but we're going to stay with the American-Italian or Italian-American drivers. He makes his way down into the braking zone, into Tamborello. So you can run the curb there, you can run the curb in the middle, and then you get the car back and exit and run the curb on the outside. So nothing there that would be considered to be gaining an advantage then into the very quick entry into the Villeneuve chicane. Then you've got to get a slow down to turn right, and it's sometimes better to be slightly slower in than overrunning and then making an error on the exit into Tosa. Then the climb uphill, and it's a lot steeper than it looks from that onboard camera shot. And you get up to the top, then the plateau just falls away, and immediately you're looking to the left for the entry into Peretella. And Eddie Cheever decides to run maybe a little bit wider than some might do, but that's his choice. Then down the hill into Acqua Minerale. What a great name for a corner. Double right-hand corner, but traffic now is the bane for Eddie Cheever up the hill. And what's nice about Imola is you've got this rise and fall all around the racetrack. Then another break into Variante Alta, a place where you can get yourself into all sorts of trouble by being too aggressive on the curbs. And then free the car up, and then this run down the hill under the access bridge and into a downhill braking. You don't see downhill braking in a lot of racetracks these days, but we have it here at Imola, and it's very easy to overrun into the first part of the Ravazza. Second part, I always like this corner. You can just get the car positioned that you would power out of the corner, and then there used to be a chicane. It's still there, in fact. It's used for other events, but on this occasion, and I think much to the benefit of the circuit, here we are back across the start-finish line, and Eddie Cheever has completed another lap in the Mercedes, not the Ferrari that we've seen the 93 car race for a number of years.
A 1:43.103 being the time. We've got people being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. We've also got an Audi of Aurelien Panis going to the top of the times. So 26 Audi goes quickest, number 51 Ferrari Nicholas Nielsen, reigning endurance champion. It's a shame that we haven't got Alessandro Pierguidi on the grid.
Well, I assume that he's off doing other duties and other championships, or is it just that there wasn't a vehicle or car or package available for him?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, he's in demand after 2 endurance titles back-to-back and his Spa win. Hopefully we'll see him in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa in the summer, but Nicholas Nielsen doesn't just lose Pierguidi, he also loses Côme Ledegar, because Côme has gone to a Porsche team for this season. So although he and the team remain, different co-drivers for Nicholas Nielsen for this season.
So Nicky team he still remains. It's Maro Engel has moved up to within 0.2 of a second, so the gap between first and second just over that quarter second. And small improvements. Valentino Rossi likewise has improved. Although he's dropped down, but his lap time has improved. He's just 1:41.4, so that will be his fastest lap so far. So that's again just around about a second quicker than we saw on that initial that first sort of 4 or 5 laps he did.
So Nicholas Nielsen pits. Looking to see where the next interesting lap time might be coming from. Aurelien Panis, that I mentioned was quickest, has fallen to 15th, but is doing an absolute best in the middle sector, and now goes quickest of all as you look at 1:88. The garage 59 Mclaren of Alexander West, one of the 3 people behind the team, the others being Andrew Cocody and Chris Goodwin, but Alexander West, who came from the Ferrari Asia Pacific Championship a good few seasons ago now, but he's done a lot of GT miles in his career.
He certainly has. I mean, he loves his motor racing, and he collects cars, or certainly collects racing cars, as well as high-end, desirable road cars. And in the meantime, with further changes, 54 Porsche up to 3rd place, and the 66 Audi of Puhaka up into 4th place.
Yeah, Yusufu Pohaka 4th, as you say. Now, that was a car that missed 2/3 of the morning session. because they were working on it in the pit lane. The Finn Juuseppä-Häkkinen did get it out and went fairly rapidly, but it's a bit more encouraging now.
Yeah, no, they spent a lot of time around the right front corner of the car. We never really got an explanation as to what they were working on. But there was certainly either a brake or a suspension, most likely a brake issue. But anyway, the car is back on track. Watching Alexander West coming down into Ravazza 1. And don't know quite why. He didn't look like he was going to be too quick at the point of entry, but he overran, and strange. There's no doubt a reason for it. Can't think of one at the minute myself.
So to the timing line comes the McLaren. 54 Porsche is third at the moment. Matteo Cairoli behind the wheel. Now that was damaged towards the end of the free practice period this morning. It was assaulted from behind by an Audi, and it did some damage to the bodywork and the diffuser, and also punctured a tyre. But the team has got the car sorted, and Matteo Cairoli, Italian Carrera Cup champion, going nicely.
Yes, obviously the damage was not, there was more superficial than structural, but nevertheless not an inexpensive bit of damage. Bodywork and a rear wheel, I think, was probably pretty much trashed by the time the car returned to the pits. So the Porsche customer service vehicle will have been kept busy.
Yeah, dispensing parts.
Yeah.
From Barwell stable, number 78 Lamborghini, which is Alex Malikin at the wheel of it. New to Imola. He's only in his second full season of racing. He drove in the Porsche Sprint Challenge last year in the UK, which is for the 718 Caymans, a championship that runs at some GT events, some TOCA events, some touring car events. But Alex Malikin now graduating to the big league.
It's quite a big step up from a 718 into a GT3 Lamborghini Evo. Seems to be adapting to it quite well, but just needs to give a little bit of space to let the slightly quicker Audi get through and then continue on and doing a good job. Cairoli has actually further improved. He's getting within 0.2 of a second of Nicky Team, the quickest car in the Aston Martin. So things are, there's progress going on, but we're not getting many people breaking in to the 1 minute 40s. There are now 4 cars that have done so. So the gaps, it's now 17 cars covered by a second as opposed to the 27 we had this morning. But we're early days, 20 minutes into the session. There is Nicky Team. He is I mean, not only is he part of that, what do they call it, the
Dane train.
I mean, he is a Viking.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
He not only comes from Denmark, and look at that, typical Nicky Team. He just got fantastic car control.
Yeah. Porsche Super Cup champion, and in his Porsche days, occasionally a bit of a bad boy, but calmed down a lot, and part of the Aston Martin factory lineup. Very accomplished driver indeed now. Father Kurt Tim, DTM champion. Got the Lippert Lamborghini just up the road ahead of him. So the Beechdean AMR entry up towards the line.
Interesting to see whether there's any gain from the Aston, the small amount of aerodynamic slipstream. Well, he's got up alongside and he's managed to pull through the Lamborghini. In fact, allowed that to overtake. If that had been a race situation, I think it would have been probably a little bit more tricky for even Nicky Team to find a way through.
We've got another 4 cars being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. We've already had a few in this session. We had quite a few in the earlier GT3 session. About 25 drivers yesterday in GT4 free practice were done for it. What is it about the pit lane here that's catching them out?
I don't think it's the pit lane. I think it's either the pit lane limiters settings are just fractionally out. I mean, the pit lane's the pit lane's the pit lane.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're overrunning coming in or getting on the gas a little bit too quickly at the exit, I don't know, but that's a large number. We normally would not expect to see anything like that.
I do remember the race director, Alain Adam, talking at Spa last year about how the tolerances were going to be less. You know, if it's 50 kilometres an hour, it means 50. So you should be doing 49.9, not 50.1. perhaps it's being tightened up on, because certainly we seem to have had far more than we normally do.
Well, the only thing I will say in regard to adherence to the speed limit and the penalties, as long as it's consistent,
Yeah.
you know, across the entire weekend. There's no little sort of secret speed cameras stuck where people don't know there's one. You know, it's got to be consistent for everybody.
Replay of, is that the marker going? Not by the Lamborghini, it's a Lamborghini having a spin. And
it's a
around
Panis.
Goes 63.
And that's not going to do that set of tyres an awful lot of good.
No, that was Jack Aitken losing it.
Hopefully that'll... Christopher Mies, by the way, has just gone fastest in the 25 Audi, so that's a good job at Santa Lock Racing, or Santa Lock Junior now, a team they call themselves. This is Christopher Mies, 140.238, and that is actually quicker than we saw this morning from the 88 Mercedes. So the first car to beat the time set by the 88 Mercedes this morning, and we haven't really seen the 88. Has it come out or not? Where is it? My blind timing.
Should be out.
It is. It's 14th.
Yeah.
Well, it was 14th. Jules Guignard.
13th.
13th. Okay.
Yeah, just moved up. So yeah, Jack Aitken it was we saw spinning, and Christopher Mies for Santa Lock ahead of Nicky Thiem, and Jack Aitken is third. Lucas Auer is now fourth for Mercedes as Kelvin van der Linde's Audi tries to clear the Bentley number 107 with disabled driver Nigel Bailly at the wheel of it, former motocrosser. So Kelvin van der Linde comes downhill. It's van der Linde, Dries van Thor, Charles Weerts in the car.
Didn't get the nose to react as much as maybe he would have liked. He sort of slithered past the apex and Rivat, so on. So whether that's a set of tyres that's done quite a lot of miles or another issue in the car, I'm not quite so sure. The Pirelli tyre that is the tyre for 2022 is sort of designed to work over quite a wide temperature range, but particularly at the higher end of the temperature range. But that isn't going to be an issue here this weekend because it's perishing, as I mentioned earlier, and track temperature isn't going to be. If it's just in double figures, I'd be surprised.
So van der Linde presses on. Of course, Imola is a circuit that the championship did come to a couple of years ago, but it isn't a venue that the championship has been to more than that once. So it takes a bit of getting used to. And a number of the drivers and teams new this year, even compared to 2020, which of course was a COVID-affected season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it is a circuit that, and I keep referring back to old school, but it is very much of that character. And you've got these rises and falls and subtleties in some of the corners, and you know, some are relatively straightforward. But if the team hasn't been here and you're learning on the hoof, then you're trying to do two things: learn and go quickly at the same time.
Big flash of the lights from Lucas Auer, who wants the BMW out of the way. That's the junior car, I think. Is it not number 50?
Yeah, it is.
And who did we put into that? Is it Dan Harper?
It's Dan Harper at the present, yeah.
27th for the ex-Carrera Cup GB champion. Lucas Auer did not clear him, and now van der Linde has caught up to them as well. So it's all getting quite crowded out on track. Yeah,
Lucas Auer did back off fractionally just to get a bit of space between himself and the BMW, and that, of course, resulted in Kelvin van der Linde running up into the rear wing and airflow, but he will look to try and slide down the inside, which he's just about going to get away with. No, he doesn't. I thought he might have tried to, but Lucas Auer had a bit more distance available to him to brake, so that frustrates Kelvin van der Linde, and Lucas Auer is now focusing on the back of the BMW once again.
Now there is Dan Harper, new to GT World Challenge Europe, shares that car with the other BMW juniors, Max Hesse and Neil Verhagen. Having to fight the car a bit there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of oversteer, just had to make the correction just on the exit and straightened it up, so I'm not sure how much Dan Harper's having to fight the car. I mean, how familiar is he with Imola? He's not raced here in Porto or anything like that.
I don't think he has, no.
So again, a new car, new circuit.
And it's a busy circuit, but pleasingly, we've got nearly to the end of the first third without any full course yellow interruptions that we were having repeatedly earlier on in the day. And of course also the earlier session ended a bit early with a red flag, didn't it?
Yes, it did. It was 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago. Dan Harper bails out of it again, just looking for track space, but he's got cars. It'll be the Audi again. Poor Kelvin Valentino. He gets clear of one car, and then he's gone into the pits, probably feeling that's the best thing to do, is get out of that mix. Christopher Mies has gone fastest overall on his current lap, still his quickest overall of the 52 car field. So middle sector, it's not bad, but it's wait to see what he does in the final sector to see if it makes any difference. 88 going down the hill.
I think he's bailed, hasn't he, Christopher Mies? Can he not do that and then come into the pits?
Jules Gounon has gone purple, green first sector, purple second sector, and he has got an opportunity here to go quickest overall, because he will get a little aerodynamic tug down pit straight behind the Ferrari, so that might give him another tenth or two. Let's see where that places the 88. Comes across the line, and it goes quickest for the 1:40.164.
So Jules Gounon in a car that was damaged this morning because there was contact between it coming into the pits and Arnaud Robin leaving the pits, Audi number 33, the same Audi that made contact with Porsche number 54.
And that team up with WRT got fined €1,000, I believe,
really?
for unsafe release.
Right. Well, it did enough, didn't it, to keep the Mercedes effectively out to the end of the session. Nick Katzberg in the Rover BMW. Rover Racing, remember, winners of the Spa 24 Hours.
If you get a look at the BMW, we saw Dan Harper coming out of Tosa with a little bit sort of very quick oversteer, having to make a correction. Likewise, Nicky Katzberg coming down through the Ravazza also seemed to have to make that. There's like a very rapid snap oversteer, and I thought maybe I might have been in the 50 car, but it looks like it's also in the sister car that now comes out of Tamborello down into Villeneuve. So just keep an eye on the back of the car as it's on the exit of the corner. Watch here at Tosa. This is where Dan Harper had that snap oversteer. Well, Nicky Katzberg didn't have any issue there. Maybe didn't put the gas on quite as heavily as he might have done a previous lap.
Look at the wipers then for Mauro Engel. So the Mercedes is 10th at the moment. Rides the curb a touch, but pressing on nicely. But the sectors aren't great, are they?
No, he's not. These are not times that are going to challenge anybody in certainly the top four or so. Still Jules Gounon, who's got the fastest lap of the day, but still outside of that 1:39.999 recurring. Raffaele Marcello has taken over from Jules Gounon, so let's see what the tall, laconic Italian can do for the 88 car.
A little bit of debris in that gravel trap on the exit of Ravazza, but haven't yet worked out who it's come from. There's over the timing line, 11th fastest Mauro Engel then. So yeah, Marcello has taken over but has yet to leave the pit lane. Christopher Mies came in having gone fastest, then falling to second once the Jules Gounon time was posted. You've got Marco Sorensen now third, number 95, Dries Van Thorp fourth, Jack Aitken's Lamborghini fifth, Lucas Auer sixth, Matteo Cairoli seventh in the Porsche, Benjamin Lessen for Boutsen is eighth, Audi, ninth Robert Renau's Porsche, 10th Mattia Drudi, Audi.
So there's improvements through the field. One of the slightly unusual times, I was just looking at a second to go, it's Aurelio Panis. He bailed on a lap where he had set personal best in the first and second sectors. I would wonder why would you want to bail when you've just set your two best sector times, but clearly there's a reason for it. So, no, nothing. Christopher Mies still second quickest, but with fastest sector time, sector one, but nothing in sector 2 or 3. That, well, sector 3 went into the pit, so he's just left the pit lane to go out and do another run.
Number 4 Mercedes goes through. Jordan Love, the Australian driver, part of the Mark Blundell managed drivers stable, and new to Imola. That car running in the Silver Cup. We've got the Pro category, of course. Then you've got the Gold Cup, new for this year, which debuts pretty impressively with 13 entries, and that is for 1 gold or platinum, plus 1 silver, plus 1 bronze. And then you've got the Silver Cup, as ever it was, and also, if it runs, because we don't have any entrants this weekend, but we could yet, the AM Cup, renamed the Bronze Cup for this season. So it's all to do with battles now. Two more for speeding in the pit lane, one of which is number 159, the Ethan Simoni, Manuel Maldonado, Nicolai Kiergaard McLaren from Garage 59, and the other is Mike Parisi, Loris Cabiro, Nicola Gomar, Lamborghini from AWS Events.
So I wonder just our teams doing what they did this morning and just go out, give each driver in turn a run. And where is 46? Just looking down to see 46 has got Nico Müller behind the wheel, so Müller has made an improvement in that car's best time down to a 140.885, but nothing particularly special on this current lap.
Yeah, it's sort of quietened down for the moment, hasn't it? But the session then, the first third completed.
The Benjamin Goethe comes across start-finish line, and as the McLaren, Jota McLaren leaves the pit lane, Ollie Wilkinson was saying, yeah, we're happy with what we're doing, really trying to dial the car in to this revised Pirelli tyre, and you know, it just takes a little bit of thought and time to get the best out of this new Pirelli tyre, and they don't feel they've achieved that quite yet, so work in store for the Jota team. By the way, Eddie Cheever in the 93 Sky Tempesta Mercedes jumped into the top 10 in 10th place. So getting to grips with the Mercedes, having used a Ferrari for the last 3 seasons. So Eddie Cheever certainly adapting to that car pretty quickly.
Yeah, and he's somebody that does a lot of Ferrari miles as well, so it's a real change. Up at the Variante Alta, 112. The JP Racing McLaren there you can see of Patrick Kropinski clears the traffic. Sets off downhill once more. So the target time in the session, 1 minute 40.164. The best that we had this morning was a 140.298, so we're fractionally quicker.
Yeah, Dennis Marshall in the 66 RD had been 4th. He's now improved 1 position up to 3rd. So the incremental improvements are getting smaller and smaller. There's nobody coming out and doing a run that's taking a second or more off the best now. We wait to see if anybody would be courageous enough to put a brand new set of tyres on to find out what ultimate pace might be, bearing in mind that qualifying will take place at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, when the ambient temperature, one would assume, is going to be chillier than it is right now. But because it's a new tyre, teams might want that information, and so we may see a flurry towards the end of new tyre runs.
So there's 112 again, as we do have an improvement in the middle sector from Dennis Marshall's Audi. Personal best, then an absolute best. So number 66, the Attempto Audi, could well get itself up near the top of the times, or at the top of the times by the end of this lap. What about Kropinski here? He, in turn, is improving because he's going quicker in the first sector. Very spectacular colour scheme on that car. You were saying earlier on about you can see it doing burnouts in central London, but yeah, it does work, that colour scheme. Yeah,
well, it catches your eye. Certainly, there's a lot of reflection off it, so it stands out.
Ooh, that's when it does that.
Skipping and jumping over the curb, well, is not the quickest way through the chicane. If you're going to take the curb there, you've got to take a big chunk of it and actually take the flatter part of the inside of the corner rather than running the curb itself. That's the way. That's what I meant. He ran the car on the more level part of the curb, not just the edge of the curb, which is where it got thrown up. And you so there's the debris. It looks like an inner wheel arch.
Yes, you're right. So to the line comes Krupinski. What about Dennis Marshall's lap? He did improve. He did a 40.4, but stays third fastest. Krupinski goes up to 38th. But it's the position within the class that is of importance. And bear in mind, also new for this year, we'll worry about this tomorrow more when it's qualifying, but now there is a point for pole in each class for the drivers and for the team. So qualifying taking on even more significance now, because it's another opportunity to score points. And the esports element continues. The on-site esports races, the Imola one this evening, points to the top 5 now, and they go to the teams for the overall classification. In other words, not endurance, but the combined classification when you add endurance and sprint together.
And I understand also the commentators get points now as well for doing the esport event. Is that true?
I haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay.
I'll try and find time. Perhaps there's a rig with your name on it, John, just waiting for you. Big wobble there for the McLaren.
One lap ago, he bounced over the curb. This time, the back end, very sudden snap oversteer. Now, that's maybe a little bit of the symptom that Ollie Wilkinson was describing that the Jota McLaren has. So, is that an inherent McLaren issue, or is it just, again, this adaptation to the new Pirelli tyre? Are they going to have to maybe rethink some of the suspension setup, for example? That's much more of a mechanical matter than it would be aerodynamic. So would they want to change something in the rear of the car to mitigate the back end being on the nervous side, one could say?
Well, there going through is Krupinski. Let's have another look at this lap and see how nervous the car is, how curb happy it is. Where's the leading Ferrari? Got to go a long way down to find the leading Ferrari. Antonio Fuoco it is, who is 17th. There, number 21 goes through. Cedric Sprazzuoli at the wheel of it. Number 21 from the AF Corsa stable, but only 40th in the times currently is the Monegasque driver. So Cedric Sprazzuoli, experience from Maserati racing as well as Ferrari racing and GT events. Goes through Acqua Minerale, touches the curb on the exit over the brow.
It doesn't look as if, from what we've seen so far, that we're going to get a Ferrari challenging for outright victory, which is a great shame at the circuit that's named after father and the young son who tragically died of illness at a very early age.
Yes, you can imagine Ferrari discussing their current pace with the technical officials, but discuss all you like. Things don't often get changed.
But so, Sunday's another day.
It is indeed.
And we don't know what the weather's going to be, because it could be very changeable. There is a small amount of rain in the forecast, whether that will come into play or not. And of course, it's going to be about keeping out of trouble, as there's ever when you've got a 52 car field. I think it's the second largest field ever in any endurance event run by SRO.
Now, number 77 Lamborghini for the Barwell stable is Alex McDowell at the wheel of it. Former Silver Cup champion. 77 is Sandy Mitchell and Rob Collard joining Alex, although Rob is only, we understand, doing this one event because Adrian Amstutz, who's the scheduled driver, can't be here because of business commitments, but the Swiss industrialist will take over after this weekend. But Rob, of course, has raced for Barwell before, both in Europe in GT World Challenge 2 years ago, and also the same year he won the British GT Championship in a Barwell Lamborghini, so coming back to the fold.
An extremely well managed run team.
It is.
Barwell,
Yeah.
they know their task as well as anybody in the pit lane, and that's they're not trying to win the race. They only focus on winning their particular their class or classes that they're running in. The race victory, or a race victory, would be a massive bonus, but it's winning the category that they're entered in. That's all they're here to do.
Yeah, of course, in British GT, they're going for outright wins. Here
Indeed.
it's going for a class win, but it would be interesting, wouldn't it, if Lamborghini gave them 2 factory drivers or 3 factory drivers for endurance racing and said, OK, let's see what you can do in the pro class, because I think they would rise to the challenge, no question.
Well, the team would certainly do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about what the team does. But, of course, you bring in 2 sort of factory drivers, then the dynamic changes, the whole structure of the team and how it operates would probably change as well, and maybe the charm of the team is the way that it is run.
It's a team with a very good track record. Mark Lammer's team, Chris Needell, the commercial brains of the operation, and we wait to see their British GT plans be confirmed in a championship that kicks off in a couple of weeks' time. Right, 51 Ferrari. It was looking quick a moment ago, but meanwhile Molina at the wheel of it, still trying to haul that car up better than 21st.
I mean, I would have expected Ferrari to be very, very competitive here. I expected the 51 car in particular to be amongst the quickest. The driver lineup is a stellar lineup, albeit they don't have Alessandro Pierguidi, but you've got James Collado and Miguel Molina, as well as Nicholas Nielsen. So there's no question on the talent behind the wheel. But where is the pace?
Big rattle over the curb by Molina there. Accelerates downhill and off the road. It's got the Mad Panda. Yeah, you're right. And Dorsan Borkovic is the man behind the wheel of it, new to GT racing. Gets back on the racetrack.
Yeah, he needs to be looking around himself when he does come back on the track, because there are other cars. He goes from one side of the track now. He's going to have to. The steering lock, of course, is limited by the size of the wheel and wheel arches. It's not on the road version has got a much better steering lock than the racing version. So gets rolling again, but being the 50 BMW, who's behind the wheel of that now?
Good question.
Looking down to see where it is even.
It is Max Hesse, and it's 25th, and off the road there goes Ian Loggy. Is that? Yes, it is, the British driver. So out of the Villeneuve chicane, too wide, over the gravel, onto the grass, and Ian Loggy in the SPS Automotive Performance car with Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann off the road and back on again.
So Georgia McLaren on its way, looking to see where it's gone to. Okay, so this 20 seconds of Ollie Wilkinson behind the wheel. Just keep an eye on the rear of the McLaren as it comes up into the Variante Alta to see how it copes with the curbing, and well, I think he's driving within the car's limitations.
Yeah.
He's not trying to push it to deliver a time.
One thing that's happened of late is that it's got a little bit brighter.
It has got
might
brighter.
mean it's getting a touch warmer.
If the wind would stop, it would be actually a very pleasant, a bit like yesterday, a pleasant afternoon. But the wind is bitingly cold. So, there's nothing really happening in the top 20 or even in the top 30. We haven't seen we've seen a couple of green personal bests, but it's as if we're in that sort of period in the session where there aren't going to be an awful lot of sort of shock, horror. Where did that time come from? So we may have to wait for another 30 minutes or so before we get to see anything that will challenge the 88's current fastest time.
Yes, it's as though we've got to a point where people are doing race runs now, doing the laps, doing the mileage, rather than, as you say, chasing the time.
Yeah, the chasing of the time, I think, sort of was part of the opening phase.
Yeah.
But no, this is it's not I call it the dumb part of the session. There's nothing exactly going to wow, where did that come from? So this is the more important part in many respects of that 1.5. This 1.5 hour session is to get that race run in and to establish a potential lap time and one that you can repeat. Having said that, Maro Engel has just jumped or improved to second place, and he's now 58 hundredths of a second behind the 88. So Mercedes currently locking out what would be a provisional front row of the grid if these were the times that would be used for Sunday's race, assuming that qualifying on Sunday morning didn't take place, and the heavens didn't open, and the wind didn't blow, and all the other factors that can. Where do you stop and start?
4th and 5th, the 2 Attempto Audis here, which means you've got to go a little bit further down to 7th to find the best WRT ones. Yeah. So Charles Weert's just taken over from Dries Van Thorp. And there is number 46, Valentino Rossi's car. And Fred Vervisch at the wheel of it. Yeah,
and he's already personal best in Sector 1. Nothing outstanding in Sector 2, about 3/10 down on what would be the theoretical best. But neat and tidy up through the Variante Alta, which is what you're required to do. Is it going to make a difference? Will it bring him into the top 10? Currently in 11th. Probably unlikely. That middle sector lost him too much time, 3 and a bit tenths of a second. The second of the Ravazzas runs, I mean, a beautiful exit. You can just see the way the car is being efficient on its exit. No sliding, no exuberance, comes across the line. So Waltwell, Fred Vervisch achieve a 1:41.083. And that's about a tenth and a bit slower than the car's current best time.
So 11th fastest it is, as he bounces it over the curb at Tamborello. Even though from the outside, you look and you think things have calmed down a bit, we're not getting the mega lap times or the mega sectors. You go on board and you see just how hard they're trying, as they're off the road in avoidance very nearly goes Fred Vervisch. There was a slow Lamborghini ahead. He'd had his own moment anyway. That got a bit leery, but there's a huge amount of effort being put in behind the wheel.
Yeah, no, he had to react very quickly. The Lambo, look at that. I mean, whoa, wow. Well, put that one in the video store for the end-of-year tape. That's a real catch. I mean, that could have been, well, it wouldn't have been a major issue, but it would just have been a set of tires destroyed and potential, loss of time and momentum. So Vervisch has got to reset. In the meantime, Maro Engel's done a good job. Personal best, sectors 1 and 2 in the current second place. Gets speed Mercedes. So Freddie's still jumping over the curbs.
Yeah, he was having his own moment and then came across the Lamborghini that seemed to have slowed quite markedly. Maybe slowing, thinking quick Audi behind and let him by. But anyway, drama averted. Down to Rivazza comes Fred Vervisch now then. And 40 minutes of the session remain. Powers up towards the line, breaks the beam for the timing points. There, start line further up the road.
So all those Maro Engel fans out there, he did improve his time, but didn't make it to P1, so he stays in P2.
Marius Zug also racing in DTM this year, but he is currently in the car that's fastest in the Silver Cup, number 99 Audi, drops downhill. Marius also doing GT4 broadcasts this weekend for German television, so he's keeping himself occupied both as a driver and a pundit.
Well, I'll tell you, it's no bad thing if you've got the ability to sit and discuss on first-hand experience of the racetrack and convey that to an audience. And I mean, maybe in another 15, 20 years when he wants to hang up his helmet, he's got a career ready, all set to go.
So what was that last lap for Marius Zug? It was a 41.8. Not the best that the car has done, but again, we don't know whether people are after a time or not at the moment. It could be that they're now letting the drivers get some mileage in. The car that's slowest at the moment is the Bentley. So we'd seen Nigel Bailly at the wheel of it. It is Mathieu de Robillot now, behind the wheel of 107. And 51st is Jordan Witt.
And I'm just going to say, what's gone wrong with Jordan Witt?
Yeah.
Oh, well, not with him, but what's happened? Why are they so far off the pace?
Lippert Motorsport returning to the championship after a 10-year absence, but the Jordan Witt and Brendan Leach, Dennis Fetzer car a long, long way down. Now, okay, 51st sounds bad. How far off the top time is it? Well, 3 seconds is the answer. That's a bit harder to find. So Jordan Witt is behind the wheel of the car at the moment. He, of course, has been a race winner in British GT in the past and very competitive in Porsches as well as in GT4. But Jordan Witt, if anyone can get a time out of the car, you would think it would be him.
Now, is it true that he specialises in drum and bass?
I didn't know that.
Well, when I saw an Instagram post, so I looked up, do they sell speakers and hi-fi equipment for cars? Or they're sponsored, maybe they're sponsored by. Maybe that's what I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's sponsored.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he's into his drum and bass.
That's your task for tomorrow morning, to go and ask him.
I'll probably pass.
Well, right now, he wants to pass as many people in this order as he can. Looking at number 10, which is the Boutsen Racing Audi, who we put into that currently, Karim Auger, and it's 12th fastest. Karim has been a mainstay of this championship, hasn't he? For pretty much its creation, and enthusiastic racer, absolutely. This year, the car is in the Gold Cup. Benjamin Lessen and Adam Eteki, the other drivers.
They opted to go, once the BMW sort of had its racing life and more or less the M6 had come to its conclusion, opted to go down the Audi route. I wonder what the rationale, when you're, as a customer, you can go to any of the manufacturers that provide turnkey GT3 cars. They chose the Audi.
Interesting. Want to
another question to ask in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah. Or next time Karim comes into the pit lane, see if we can get Gemma to go and have a word, because you rightly say it's a big change after many years of BMW.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
GT racing, the M6 and the Z4 before it.
One would have said if you're going from a mid-front engine GT car, the obvious selection would have been a Mercedes.
Yeah.
I mean the Bentley might have been one, but that's a smaller operation in terms of support and backup. And with Mercedes, you've got the entirety of the pit lane Mercedes support. So, but they've chosen the Audi. Whether the package that was offered by the Audi over other manufacturers was the more attractive package, I don't know.
Right, Danny Junqueira has taken over 88, which is the fastest car. It's only 58 thousandths ahead of Maro Engel. And Lucas Legare has taken over from Christopher Mies in the third fastest car, which is Audi number 25.
We've finally got a Ferrari in the top 10. Fuoco is 10th quickest. So
it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time. It's a shame. Iron Links, it's a great lineup. Davide Rigo, Daniel Serra, and Antonio Fuoco.
Right, Finlay Hutchison you're looking at, another of the WRT Audi drivers. Into the Variante Alta, way over the curve.
I'm going to say, I mean, excuse me, did he have any of the race car anywhere near the racetrack when he went through Variante Alta on that occasion? I wouldn't have thought so.
No. Good news was he missed the marker cone, as they all have thus far. Much more respectful in this second session. But Finlay Hutchison then, throwing caution to the wind. And is 34th at the moment in the Audi, up towards the line.
I wonder what has been said by the race director. Has anything been said by the race director to the teams in regard to Variante Alta? I mean, what's going on? Oh, that's not the way to go through the Villeneuve chicane. Great for our pictures, mind you, but not for the car.
Konstantin Terashenko getting it all wrong. So, return to the circuit, but time lost. Yeah, whether a word has been had. I don't know. You almost would hope that the teams have learned, and the drivers have learned, through the frustration of having such an interrupted first session of the day, but who knows?
Well, everybody is staying well clear of it. I mean, something must have been said, because I can't imagine why 52 or whatever number of drivers it will be at any given time in the racetrack have gone from having a very disruptive session early in the morning to one where we've had no stoppages and we're now just coming up to 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, it's a complete contrast. We were very concerned, weren't we, about what that might do for the race. I mean, again, if in the race it is flicked aside, it might be that we get full course yellows, but we hope we don't get them in the same number that we did this morning in the free practice session. I think it was 8 full course yellow periods we got up to. Valentino Rossi in the second of the Aston Martins. 35th, that car.
Yes, long way behind the sister car, which Maxime Martin is behind the wheel of right now, which is in 6th position. That was the car that initially was leading the way when the session commenced just shortly after 2 p.m.
The Jota team, incidentally, need to go to the stewards at the end of the session and take driver Ollie Wilkinson with them. So I haven't seen what he's been up to, but the stewards have had a report and want to address that. Right, down the hill comes Valentino Rossi. Comes now through the left-hander of the first part of Ravazza, and will be on the pound now up towards the timing line.
Just been advised, the race director has advised teams that if there's any hitting of that cone, punitive penalties will be the order of the day. I'm not going to go into the detail of it because it would be embarrassing to have anybody actually hit the cone and then have to serve that penalty.
Right, okay. So a word has been had.
Yes. And
now let's just talk BMW for a moment. Nick Yellerly from the Rover team is with Gemma Scott.
Nick, back out in the new car. You've not had a lot of time to test either pre-season.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had I think a day in Paul Ricard before with the car with Rover at least. So yeah, we've still got plenty to learn. It's on the new spec of Pirelli tyre for this season. So yeah, just trying to dial it all in. We keep making steps each session, and yeah, hopefully we can put it all together for tomorrow in quali.
And settling in with the new tyres as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're quite different from last year. I think I've done 1 set of new tyres so far, so it will be yeah, a bit of baptism of fire, but I'm sure we'll get on top of it soon and yeah, be able to extract the most out of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
So Nick Yellerly, another single-seater convert into GT racing, but very much part of the BMW family these days.
yes, a very nice family to be a member of. And in a brand new product from Munich, from the M Sport division. So yes, work in progress. I mean, unfortunately, some of that work in progress is going to be carried out in the early events. And of course, the focus ultimately for the Rover Racing team will be the magic itself, the 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps on a revised racetrack.
Indeed.
Modernized.
Yes. Modernized, yes.
Modernized. Can we call it old school anymore with the modifications that we made?
Let's wait and see.
It's going to be a modernized old school circuit.
Yeah, Rover, just going back to the team for a moment, as you look at the car coming out of Ravazza, has decided to ditch its DTM effort and concentrate purely on, as Hans-Peter Naundorf, the team boss, says, what we do best, which is endurance races.
I think so. I mean, DTM is a law unto itself, albeit now running a GT3 product. But it's a different style of racing altogether. I mean, a much more aggressive style of racing. And sometimes we talk about the aggression that we have seen in our races. But you stick to endurance racing, DTM is much more sprint orientated.
Well, they've won Spa 24, Nürburgring 24, so it's a team with a good endurance pedigree. Augusto Farfus at the wheel of the car. And if you look at the AWS graphic, you can see what speed he's doing in kilometres per hour, what gear he's in.
I think he's wearing OPM, isn't he? Or is it Sparko he's wearing? You're talking about the car.
Thank you so much. I was a bit slow there. Thank you, John.
Could be Alpine Stars.
Could indeed. Keep going. Other brands are available.
That's all I can remember.
So topping 200 kilometres an hour down to the Acqua Minerale. And in terms of the top speed that cars are doing, it is Marvin Kirchhofer in McLaren number 38, 272 in a straight line, equalled by Farfus, equalled by the number 7 McLaren. It's currently got Brendan Arive at the wheel of it. So that shows in terms of pure speed, the McLarens, because you've got 3 of them up there, cracking the numbers, are good with the speed.
Absolutely. Well, they've got speed at a part of the racetrack where if you can run behind another car, or you are running behind another car, you might have a chance of making a manoeuvre under or into the braking zone, into Tamborello. One arguably could say, well, if they put a little bit more downforce into the car, would the overall lap time benefit? But would the sacrifice of giving up that top speed advantage outweigh whichever? So that's what teams are doing. They're going through this process of maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. What's good for qualifying? What's going to be good for the race?
Right, there's 25 Audi through. So this car now, Lucas Legare at the wheel of it for Santalok. It was Christopher Meese doing good things in it earlier on. We've got yet more cars being investigated for speeding in the pits. And somebody's kicked up the dirt there. One of the Lamborghinis just going wide ahead of Legare. Survives the moment. So the traditional Italian start to the endurance season, but not at Monza. We had the Imola round, of course, in 2020 with the COVID-affected season, but normally it's a Monza start, but Imola, a very popular venue for this weekend.
It's difficult because they're 2 of my favourite circuits, and for different reasons, and actually quite a lot of it's to do with food in the region of both. But Monza is, I call it the cathedral of speed, and you've got phenomenal straights and really what an old racetrack used to be like. And here, Imola, you've got, it's almost what would have been a traditional road circuit. If you put up hedges and walls and ditches, you could actually, the layout would be just almost like a typical road circuit of the sort of early 50s in Italy.
It's been tweaked over the years, but the general shape remains the same. And coming over the timing line then now, Lucas Legare lapping in the 1:41, so about a second and a half down on what Christopher Meese did in that car.
It would be an interesting exercise. It's obviously never going to happen. That if Tamborello could be reconstituted into its original layout, and let's see what a GT3 car has got the capacity to do. Could it go through it flat out, or would it be would it be another sort of, a bit again referring back to Spa, where now Eau Rouge and Radio in a current GT3 cars, and certainly in qualifying, flat as a pancake. Would Tamborello be flat as a pancake or not?
Possibly so, with all the aero they've got these days. Well, there is Legare.
Sort of didn't really notice it, but the 63 Emile Frey Lamborghini Mirko Bortolotti, I don't know if he did the time or not. Did I miss that car up into 8th position? It's gone back into the pits as I speak. But, you know, haven't seen a lot of Bortolotti over the 2 sessions either. Suddenly, there they are in the top 8.
Yeah, I think that car did that time early on. I think it's a Jack Aitken time from very early.
Still the Jack, okay.
It was on its 7th lap, and it's now done 29. It's done a lot of laps anyway. Yeah. So
well, they're definitely done race runs in that case. If that's
sorry, 26 laps the car has done. So yeah, it goes back to Jack Aitken's tenure early on in the session. 54 Porsche, rebuilt after its dramas this morning. Carmel Edgar at the wheel, so going from McLaren to Ferrari to Porsche, in which he made his name winning Carrera Cup in France.
So they are in 11th place, looking further down. In 18th position is the 38 Jota McLaren of Marvin Kirchhofer. So that's the quickest of the McLarens currently.
So the Porsche that you're looking at is the way down the order at the moment. It's 11th. But the Dynamic Motorsport team, which has come on a lot in a pretty short space of time and has had success winning Italian season opening races, especially mixed weather at Monza, if you remember. It's Day of Days, a couple of 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was that their debut?
Pretty much.
I think it was pretty much. I think it might have been their debut event, and it was very much a customer Porsche at that time, and they won it.
It was a race where lots of people had tyre dramas. So running on board, Porsche comes into Tamborello. Carl hustles on, so we can get as a speed to 26, 27 before he has to hit the brakes for the Villeneuve chicane, fights the car through it, and up now towards Tosa.
Amazing racing gearboxes, they whine. Oh, I've heard people whine less than you hear a gearbox whining. Just straight cut gears in the gearbox, and that's the noise that they all seem to produce. Porsche do not use the synchromesh that they used to do on Porsche 956s and 962s. So, in part, is all about weight saving, but also the quality of engineering of racing gearboxes has improved massively since the halcyon days of the Porsche 956 and the 962s.
So from on board, this looks a good lap from Combe-Renegard. Looks fast, sounds fast, hustles on, and what do the sectors suggest? Not an improvement in sector 1 nor in sector 2. Speed building again now, coming up towards the timing line. 200 and north and climbing. 230 and climbing.
Well, he's going to hit 260 something, I suspect, before he breaks into Tamborello. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. We're just under 270 kilometers per hour.
So we're getting what, 272 out of the McLarens?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's about 3, 4 kilometers per hour down in the McLaren.
Yeah. Combe-Renegard bucking the trend, if you like, by switching from brand to brand. And remember, he was a champion in a McLaren, champion in a Ferrari, now back in a Porsche. Lots of drivers tend to go to one manufacturer and stay there.
Well, it's certainly if you can get a contract with a manufacturer, and then you're basically placed wherever they choose to send you. With Christopher Hassa in the 12, whereabouts has that car dropped all the way down to
17th at the moment. I mean, he's an example of somebody who has been very loyal to the Audi brand, and Audi's been loyal to him for many, many seasons. But think back to the early days of World Challenge Endurance Cup. He was a champion with Christopher Mies and Stefan Ortelli, and in those days the Christophers were the young guns. Well, now they're the old stagers, aren't they, in a way? They're put into the cars with the youngsters to help bring them on.
Yes, they do, and they're very good at doing that. They've still got all the ability and speed. That you know, when you bring a youngster in, what they have is raw speed, raw talent. What people like Christopher Mies, Christopher Hassa, Marcus Winkelhock do is round off those very sharp edges and make them into good endurance racers. I mean, okay, some of our events are 1 hour sprints, but in fairness, even a 3 hour endurance race is really a 3 hour sprint because it's 3 drivers, 1 hour each. So they're pretty much flat out.
So Christopher Hassa over the brow, down the hill. Pit lane emptying again as another round of stops have gone through. So different drivers on board a number of the cars. More people being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. And with 19 minutes on the clock, find wood to touch, but it's been a remarkably calm session by the standards of this morning.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher Hassa just has made a small improvement, but we'd probably call it a big improvement. He's up to 9th place. So that last lap, it was only showed a personal best in the final sector, but it was good enough to drag him into the top 10 and out of the bottom 20, out of the bottom 18 or 17.
Top speeds at Tamborello. It is Ferrari number 71, the fastest, 182 kilometers an hour.
It's always interesting when we get these speeds, race vision powered by AWS, that the people that are in the top 5 barely are featuring in the top 5 in the overall lap time. And you wonder where the people that are quickest overall, where are they making up the time if they're not quick in this certain, these either into Tamborello or down into the braking before you turn into Tamborello. They're making it up somewhere, but we're not quite seeing where. The Mclaren doesn't look comfortable when you put a load into it on the exit of a corner. So he's pulled over to let the Aston go through. Good work, you know, using your mirrors and not impeding a car that's hoping to make a better lap time.
McLaren looks good also in that Garage 59 colour scheme. I know we picked on the JP Motorsport livery early on and commented on that, but looks good in the blue of Garage 59. You see the car slow to try and abide to the pit lane speed limit, and it comes.
Maybe one day we should have a concours d'elegance. Line the cars up and say which car has got the best graphics.
Tell you where to do it. The parade at Spa on the Wednesday afternoon when they drive into town, which hopefully will be back this year with fans allowed at the circuit.
Yep.
And do it there because there are always some good colour schemes. Jean-Baptiste Simonard, another Porsche ace, now switching brands, going to Audi and TWRT.
Two WRT cars running in tandem. No particular reason, just finding themselves together on the circuit.
Right, so through into the last 16 minutes of the session. The best time, 1:40.164. Road getting busier again as more and more people go pouring out. 9:11. Alfred Renard.
Inception Racing's McLaren, 10th quickest.
Frederick Schandorf's taken over, yeah. So has just done that time, 1:40.603. Former Silver Cup champion for Barwell in the Lamborghini is Frederick Schandorf. Winner of the Super Trofeo World Final. Right, over the brow, there comes Robert Renard. The Renard twins run the Harper Motorsport team. We've seen them on occasions in the Endurance Cup, but very good success in the 24-hour series events. But Robert Renard, a very quick Porsche racer, perhaps a bit underrated actually, but very quick. Comes up towards the timing line. Flash of the lights from Mercedes there to warn the cars coming out of the pit lane, but there are quick cars coming up behind them.
It's a pit lane exit that actually sort of is part of the racetrack that a driver might like to use. So, well, there are the speeds at Acqua Minerale. That's not in the corner, it's in the, I suppose, in the approach into it. Klaus Bachler in the Porsche, quickest overall. And where are our top 5? Is anyone? Well, Lucas Stoltz is one of them. So he's, yes, third in that lot. So he's second overall currently.
More and more cars heading out of the pit lane then onto the circuit for the last 15 minutes. Is this going to be a sort of dummy qualifying session now?
I got a feeling that Schandorf's time might be one of those times, because suddenly the car went from being comfortably outside the top 10 to being sort of comfortably the bottom, or it's the 10th car of the top 10. And normally there's a reason why a car suddenly goes, let's say, significantly quicker than it's been previously doing. And ordinarily, you'd say, is that a fresh set of rubber?
Well, there over the brow once more come the Porsches. So Dynamic versus Hairbeth here. 54, now Klaus Bachler has taken that over. And 911 is, I think I said Robert, the screen's updated. Alfred Renauer now driving that. So you've got the two Renauer brothers and Ralph Bowen in another of the Gold Cup entrance. Ralph Bowen from Carrera Cup GB. That's Frederick Schandorf. He's off the road and back on again, but he's throwing everything at this. So Frederick Schandorf and Ollie Milroy, both very, very quick. Brendan Arib, who came out of the pure McLaren GT series, less experienced, but very, very quick indeed. He was mighty impressive when he took part in a British GT race at the end of 2020 at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. Looked really, really good there.
I mean, clearly Schandorf is pushing hard. You can see in the exit of up at the top of Variante Alta, and that's probably getting close to what would be considered to be a time deletion. But look, there's nothing left. He's dragging the car around by the scruff of its neck. He's going to get a nice two from the 98 BMW now on the exit over Lavazza. And remember, these McLarens have been pretty quick in a straight line, so it might further help. Schandorf goes 7th, so no, he doesn't. He's number 7. He does go 7th. Indeed, he does. And he got also last sector, quickest of anybody.
So Schandorf 7th fastest, as you say, looking good, showing what the McLarens are capable of. And Marvin Kirchhofer in the Jota entry will be one to watch as well. You would expect that car to be higher up the order. On board the Rover BMW.
And he's got a McLaren in his mirrors. So up the hill.
BMW is old school in as much as it has a rear view mirror, because of course some of the cars, you can actually see it does also have one, the little television to act as the rear camera, the rear mirror, but it does have the old-fashioned thing stuck at the front of the car.
Yeah, I mean, the BMW, and to some degree maybe the Mercedes likewise, are essentially traditional road car layout, engine in the front or in the middle, cockpit, rear of the car, so you've got a lot of visibility. It was the mid-rear engine cars where the bodywork impinges on the rearward vision, so that's why they're using these video cameras to... Ooh, Nick Yellerly, the back end steps out of Ravazza, and again Ravazza too. So for me, that's partly a car matter, but it's also the new tire. Some cars are having to learn how to make the best of this new Pirelli tire, and McLarens were also saying that the kind of very rapid oversteer that they were suffering looks rather similar to me, that BMW's got the same characteristic.
But it's a car that you can guarantee will become more competitive the more miles it does. So Nick Yellerly is 22nd at the moment, and they're way out wide is Albert Costa, driven 10th fastest Lamborghini.
We'll just keep an eye out for Dennis Lind in the McLaren, who is personal best in Sector 1, currently in 9th position. And he would like to have the honours of being not just the quickest McLaren, but certainly improving from 9th to further up the field. Albert Costa comes across the line. It's not going to be any significant improvement. Currently in 10th position, that car.
Again, way out wide, Albert Costa, and off the road.
Yeah, and it comes back on, and didn't really have any consideration for the traffic following. But hey, guys, you know, this is how it is sometimes. So Dennis Lind didn't improve in position, but he ended up fastest Sector 3 of anybody so far. So that middle sector was the sector that cost him any chance of improving.
not only has Albert Costa been off the road, he's also being looked at for speeding in the pit lane, or at least that car is. 8.5 minutes to go, and number 88 Mercedes still at the top of the times, but in the pit lane. That's done 24 laps. What's the most we've had out of anybody? 40? Am I right in saying is the most?
Yeah, 40 for, I think, the Haas Audi.
And also number 14, I think, the Emil Frey, Thomas Tuiler, Consul Lapalainen and Stuart White car has done 40 laps. So, yeah, those that have concentrated on a race run, if you like, on the mileage, have done pretty well out of the hour and a half.
Well, there's been an hour and a half where we have not seen any full course yellows. And we've still got just over 7.5 minutes remaining as Dennis Lynn continues on. Again, personal best in sector 2. Waiting to see what he is going to do this lap. So this car currently in 9th position. Shortly going across start-finish line. Will this see an overall position change for the 111 McLaren? No, it doesn't.
So Dennis Lynn's, of course, learning about the McLaren, having specialised in Lamborghinis over recent seasons, both in Super Trofeo and winning British GT, and going back a few seasons, the GT Series in Asia. But that car currently 9th fastest, and he's going to have a wall of traffic up the road here as well.
Yes, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to suffer it or back out of it and then end up being engulfed by those that are following behind. And you end up finding pockets of cars, no obvious reason, just they'll get together at one point in one part of the circuit. The 46 again, who's behind the wheel of the 46 is Valentino Rossi. So he's getting the last knockings here for the 46 to close the day's running. So this car's best time is a 1:40.6. That was not set by Rossi. So what will he do? He's completed his out lap. This is his first flying lap on this final stint.
He's probably enjoying being in the car, because at least then he's not under siege from all the fans, because as you can imagine, the bulk of attention in the paddock is around his part of the paddock itself. So every time he steps out of the transporter, there are lots of people wanting a photograph, an autograph, you name it. So at least in the car he's got some peaks.
Yes, I mean, the alternative is to rent a lookalike Valentino Rossi and have him, dart around the paddock and then distract all the fans, but that would be a rather cruel thing to do. But when you reach that status of celebrity, sometimes you think anything's going to be what can make my life slightly easier.
He's fighting the car there coming out of Tosa, but survives the moment. 5 minutes and change on the clock now. The Bentley remains at the foot of the time. Stéphane Lemeray has taken it over. Valentino Rossi is at Acqua Minerale. Use the curb again in the second part of it, over the brow. First time he's raced at Imola, and comes then up now towards the Variante Alta once more.
Yeah, that sort of very sudden need to correct the back of the car, unsettling by using the curb. And there's downhill braking into Ravazza 1.
The other element of this, I know he has done some car racing before, but using curbs as part of the racing line, very different from, well, off the road completely there, coming wide out of Ravazza and then bails into the pit lane. I was trying to say that, hit the curb on a motorbike and it's going to spit you off, whereas here you can use those curbs to use a bit more of the racetrack, get a quicker lap time out of the car. So it's a different art, even though the circuit's the same.
Yeah, I mean, as a consequence of circuits that race car racing and motorcycle racing, let's call it that. Look, there he goes. And that's the reason why he came into the pit lane. There was no point in continuing. It was almost like a natural extension of getting back onto the track. He found himself in the pit lane entry. So he's got Nada, who's getting Fred Vervisch getting back in again.
Possibly so.
Well, I'm surprised with a new set of tires going on, or another set of tires going on. Didn't quite see if there's a set of stickers and that's or not, or whether that is this going to be Fred Vervisch going out and sending it for one flying lap and getting the information the team would like to have available to them for Sunday morning.
Lots of cheers for him from opposite the pits as he got out of the car. So Valentino Rossi watches the car blast away. And his work done for today. The WRT engineers have a quick word. But his presence in the championship this year has certainly been very, very well received. And as we made the point this morning, this is the future for him. He's not here as a one-off, as a token. He is now committing to GT racing. Yes, and he's also made a decision to go with arguably the most professional team over the 8-9 seasons that WRT have been in competition. Mercedes, that's the Sky Tempesta. Full course yellow.
I'm going to say something's happened because just suddenly on the racetrack the car braked heavily. So we do have a full course yellow. Is that because somebody's clipped the marker cone, or is it, as you pointed out in the morning session, there would be a full course yellow? Oh, it's still there.
Hey.
There's a last cone standing.
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be a record for Imola. That cone, it must feel unloved now because nobody's hitting it.
Exactly. And now we've gone green. So whatever it was quickly dealt with. So full course yellow sorted. And that was with about 2.5 minutes to go. So we got so close to the end of the session. But we've got 2 more minutes, so effectively 1 more lap if you want it. Not everybody is on the track, it must be said, but an interesting session. So what are we learning from all of this? At the moment, it looks like it's a Mercedes versus Audi race because they are up near the top of the times, but over 3 hours, 6th fastest, the Aston Martin of Maxime Martin, Marco Sorensen, Nicky Tim, rule that one out at your peril.
Yeah, I think that's the one out of the top 6 that's the one you've got to focus on as being the most likely spoiler of an Audi or a Mercedes lockout at the front of the field. Now Fred Vervisch came in, or the car came in, Fred Vervisch got on board, and another set of tyres went on, so he's got this lap to complete. I don't know whereabouts on the circuit he would be, but he'll get around in time to start a flying lap, and keep an eye and see whether there is any further improvements from that 46 WRT Audi.
I understand that full course yellow was purely a test, so it was to get the teams au fait with it. It's if they haven't had enough practice this morning.
How much practice can you do? How can you have?
More than anything as well, it's not just the process, it's also to make sure that the system is working from race control with the countdown into the teams, because they get a 20-second notice and then a 10 and then the countdown, as you'll have heard. So that was another reason to just make sure it's all working. So the teams do a radio check at the start of a session. Right, the flag is imminent into the last 10 seconds as Giacomo Altue goes through. But a Mercedes 1-2 then for Acrodis ASP and AMG Team Get Speed. Flag is out. So we've actually, despite the amount of traffic and the amount of running that we got, very little drama. Not too many people going off the road. 88 looks quite content with its life as the fastest car, only by 58 thousandths, but fastest it is nonetheless.
I think there's a quiet confidence in that crew that they know they've got the pace when they need to illustrate it, and if there's no prizes right now, other than if something unforeseen should happen overnight and qualifying is unable to take place. So by dint of having a pre-qualifying session, they would automatically take pole position.
Well, qualifying tomorrow, weather allowing. It would be an exception if it didn't go ahead, but of course, as you saw in IGTC at Kyalami, it can happen. But it will be the average of the 3 times that are set. We don't have any 2-driver lineups this year. Occasionally we've had 2 in Pro-Am, but it's all the entry this year of the 3 drivers per car. So everybody does a session. You combine the times and then get the average, and that's going to give you the grid. Whether or not the point for the class pole positions creates any more impetus for the drivers to push that bit harder, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, you want to be as far up the grid as you can anyway. You don't need the extra incentive of a championship point, but what it will do is make qualifying that little bit more important for the purposes of the championships.
Well, if there's an extra point going, I'm sure everybody would rather they have it than their competitors have it. So that is the motivation, I suppose. But if you're maybe starting midfield, and is it worth the additional effort, potentially the risk to go for that time?
Well, at the end of pre-qualifying, it is a Mercedes 1-2 because Raffaele Marciello tops the times from Maro Engel, Christopher Mies third, and Justo Pohaka fourth fastest. Then it was the Alex Arca, Nicholas Schurl, Marius Zurgaudi going well, so both the Attempto cars up there. Sixth, the Aston Martin, Maxime Martin, Marco Sorensen and Nicky Thiem, with Frederick Schandhoff's time next. Only eighth, Dries Van Thor, Kelvin van der Linde and Charles Weerts, with ninth being number 111 McLaren, Dennis Lynn last in it, and rounding out the top 10, number 63 Lamborghini that Jack Aitken did the time in very early on. Go further down, 16th from the Gold Cup, Adam Ateki, Karim Auger and Benjamin Lessen, and only 21st, a car that I don't think Rob Bell did very much driving in, but Ollie Wilkinson and Marvin Kirchhofer did, the Jota McLaren. Further down, where are the Iron Dames? They're 32nd, and out of all of this, 15th, Fred Vervisch did the time at the very end in Valentino Rossi's Audi. Looking to see one or two others that might have struggled a bit. We saw Ian Loggy off the road, 42nd in the end, number 20 Mercedes that he is driving. Sandy Mitchell, Rob Collard, Alex McDowell, 44th. All 52 were on the circuit. And in the end, the Bentley was not the slowest because the Lippert Lamborghini seems to be having a torrid time. It did 41 laps, but the time was set very early in the session, and it was a slowish one, but the Lamborghini at the foot of the times. Right, let's look at the highlights then of what was an interesting session. Largely hassle-free. Lots of attention inevitably around number 46 Audi as the cars ventured onto the circuit. But some of the teams chased a time early. Others decided that they would go for the mileage, go for a race run. We did have this little drama. Jack Aitken spinning coming out of the Variante Alta. But he got away with that, and the car would remain in the top 10 throughout the session. Fred Vervisch had this moment, avoiding a slow Lamborghini, as well as having been off the road himself. He survived the experience, as others went charging on, Finlay Hutchison being amongst them, taking greedy bits of curb in his Audi. Another one to rattle over the curves. Mercedes number 87, but that car in the hands of Konstantin Teroshenko survived. Ultimately, though, it was a good battle going on at the top of the times between the Mercedes and 88 in the hands of Raffaele Marciello, Jules Gounon and Danny Juncadella, the fastest at the end of pre-qualifying. Pressure is on the next time the cars hit the track for the qualifying session, and that will be tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock local time. We'll see you for that tomorrow. For now, from John Watson and David Addison, it's goodbye from Imola.